did. You just told part of that. Good job. Oh, yeah, yeah. He's the draftsman. He was the chief draftsman. Yep, good guy. He was younger than me, I think. He's a nice man.
She was live for my personal Facebook.
He's in Florida. Is he? No.
I'll just switch it to.
The only remaining partner is Thompson. He's still there. Steve. Steve Thompson's son. Yeah, Plumber. Yeah.
Okay, I'll open the monthly board meeting for February for the Shell Rock River Watershed District. Will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken?
Here.
Manager Pasuski?
All right.
Manager DeBoer?
Here.
Manager Lee?
Here.
Manager Hanson?
Aye.
Manager Delger?
Here. Next, item number 2 of the agenda, a public hearing on the Bancroft wetland restoration. Now opening the public hearing for the Bancroft wetland restoration. All comments by proponents, opponents, or the public shall be made from the podium. Please first give your name and address. This is required because an official record of the public hearing is being made. Please note, comments are limited to 3 minutes. These rules are intended to promote an orderly system of holding a public hearing to give every person an opportunity to be heard and to ensure that no individual is embarrassed by exercising the individual right to free speech. It is not necessary to be a proponent or an opponent in order to speak. If you consider yourself neither a proponent or opponent, please speak during the proponent portion and identify yourself as neither a proponent or no opponent. No comment should be made from any other location, and anyone making out of order comments may be subject to removal from the meeting. There will be no demonstrations during or at the conclusion of anyone's presentation. Would anyone like to speak? Second time, does anyone like to speak? Third and last time, would anyone like to speak? Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. Okay, we'll go on to item number 3, public forum. Is there anyone from the public that wants to speak? Being no one, I'm hearing no one. We'll go on to approval of the agenda number 4. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Mr. Chair, there is no additions, corrections, or deletions for the agenda.
Would someone like to make a motion as is?
Go ahead.
By Mike Hanson, and second?
Second.
Manager Lee, any discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken?
Aye.
Manager Pasuski?
All right.
Manager DeBoer?
Aye.
Manager Lee?
Aye.
Manager Hanson?
Aye.
Manager Delger?
Aye, motion approved. Item number 5, the consent agenda. The following items will be acted upon without discussion in accordance with the staff recommendation and associated documents unless a manager requests opportunity for discussion. A, minutes of the January 9th, 2024 Shell Rock River Watershed regular board meeting. B, minutes of the January 23, 2024 Shell Rock River Watershed District Personnel Committee meeting. C, January 2024 Treasury report subject to audit. D, January 2024 project fund treasurer's report subject to audit. E, authorize payment of claims. And F, authorize payment of project fund disbursements. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Manager Bakken, do I have a second?
Second.
By Manager Pasuski. Any discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken?
Aye.
Manager Pasuski?
Aye.
Manager DeBoer?
Aye.
Manager Lee?
Aye.
Manager Hanson?
Aye.
Manager Delter?
Aye, motion carried. Item number 6, Administrator Andy Henschel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item I have, item A, motion to approve the Shell Rock River Watershed District's Employee Handbook. This was a pretty big task. We had a couple meetings with the Personnel Committee, which consisted of Nick Delger, Mike Hanson, and Brad Kramer. You will see their Personnel Committee minutes. Some of the big issues discussed, of course, was the FMLA. So that was all updated in the handbook. There were some discrepancies that we cleaned up in the overtime and the holiday pay. Also from switching over from the vacation time to paid time off. And the discussion was to keep the front load date as of January 1st. Again, then discussion on the earned sick and safe time, or the ESST. We updated that. The other thing that we did is put a cap on the ESST hours. Prior to this, there was no cap. So we capped that at 960 hours. You will see some other stuff coming from this in July with employees that had over the 960 and how we're going to remedy that going into budgets discussions for the 2025 calendar year. We did have some clarifications in the unpaid leave. And then also we tried to simplify some of the travel expenses and just go by federal rate, with the federal rate for the state of Minnesota to really try to clean that stuff up and make it a little bit more streamlined. So that's the changes. I do want to make one change. Manager Mike Lee brought this to me. There is a typo actually in from the old to the new that wasn't planned on being changed. But under item 5.8 in the old 2010 handbook, we do have a paid leave, maybe granted for a maximum of 5 days. If you look at the new one, we actually put unpaid. So with that minor change to making the unpaid back to paid leave for funeral leave, I asked for the board for a motion to approve the updated handbook from February 13th, 2024, and put that into effect as of today.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Manager Hanson, do I have a second? Second. By Manager DeBoer, is there any discussion? The Personnel Committee, and I tell you, with Mike, or Manager Hanson and Kramer, with already having some experience in this already, did have a lot of input, a lot of good information. Thanks to those two guys. With that, is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll.
Manager Bakken?
Aye.
Manager Pasuski?
Aye.
Manager DeBoer?
Aye.
Manager Lee?
Aye.
Manager Hanson?
Aye.
Manager Delger?
Aye, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item B is a motion to hire a natural resource tech. If we go back a couple of years, we've had a resource tech on staff. However, pretty much since the end of COVID, we have not filled that position since it was vacant. We have looked at having summertime help to try to fulfill some of the water monitoring needs. The problem that we've been having is the time it takes to get people up to speed on the water monitoring and so forth takes time. And then if they're not going to stick around for the following year, then we do it all over again. So in the long run, it's actually probably costing us money. Again, so I'm looking at hiring the position of a full-time natural resource tech I believe right now, the salary range is from $22 to $25 an hour. And looking to hopefully bring them on board as soon as possible for the 2024 season.
Do I have a motion?
So,
By Manager DeBoer, do I have a second?
second.
By Manager Lee. I think that's a, good idea, especially for this year when we start our next, Reggie, yeah, I should know that, dude. It's gonna take a lot of time with the staff doing that, so we do need an extra person for sure. Any other discussion?
Is this seasonal or full-time?
This would actually be full-time.
So this is a legacy position,
Yes.
so you're from now on. Okay.
Yep.
Would there be a probationary period then too, or?
So no, we do not have probationary periods in our personnel handbook. And Steph, if you want to sort of give the reason you gave me of why we do not want to hand or put in a.
So generally probationary periods go against at-will employment.
Yeah.
So generally, we don't prefer them as a public employer, however, there's more scrutiny. And so we will wanna impose progressive discipline and make sure we give them ample time to get up to speed and make sure we're on top of it, but our official position is at will.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Vaca,
Aye.
Manager Prasuski,
Aye.
Manager DeBoer,
Aye.
Manager Lee,
Aye.
Manager Hanson,
Aye.
Manager Delcher.
Aye, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item C is the Geosyntec consultant CDF capacity evaluation memorandum update. Again, this is in your packets, and I hope you had time to go through it. But again, if we're looking at phase 3 of the dredge project, the goal is to start permitting and start dredging in the spring of 2025. However, to do that, we need the capacity within cell 1, 2, and 3 to have that opportunity to put the spoils in those cells. Right now, it has been discussed many times that we don't want to build a 4th cell. And as you can see within the memorandum from Geosyntec, right now we have 233,000 cubic yards of capacity in the remaining cells. But then again, with bulking volume and in situ volume, we have to increase that bulking factor. So we want to have roughly about 679,000 cubic yards available to the district within the CDF to discharge into. So with that, we are actually looking at pretty much a complete clean out of cell 1. If you look at cell 1 right now, currently, we feel that there's about 43,670 cubic yards remaining in that cell. So there's quite a bit that has to come out to give us the totals between cells 1 and 2 to reach that 679,346 cubic yard bulking factor. With that being said, cell 3, you will see we have 0 there. The reason we have 0 there is because cell 3 is going to be where we pile the spoils from cell 1. Again, there's very little yardage as far as benefit for cell 3 for us. So again, for the best use of district dollars, it is recommended from Geosyntec to place the spoils from cell 1 into cell 3, and then also property that we have just south of cell 1 to create the large mound of dirt that will hold all of the material that's within cell 1. We're also looking at working with an adjacent landowner in case we do have site issues as far as room to place material. So we're also looking with them are working with them to look at being able to place material off-site of the property. So with that, Mr. Chair, if there's any questions on what we're looking at here, and any questions that I can potentially answer or get the answer to.
Any discussion?
Just wondering how many yards you're moving. How many yards are you gonna move?
From cell one?
Yeah.
About 607,
1,000?
yes. A lot.
Okay, and how much is coming back in from the next project?
Roughly, we're right at that 600 to 650,000. That design has not been done yet. That's the next goal for the project.
Okay, so you gotta move this 600,000 yards. It's gonna cost billions.
We still believe the cost will be cheaper than constructing a.
Oh, right,
new site.
right.
But yeah, it's gonna be an expensive project.
Okay. Well, how does that affect the dredge project? As far as funding?
It shouldn't affect it. If you remember, we got 9 million in bonding.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we're still looking at having the funds available to cover. Of course, we'll have to see what the bids come in at, but to cover both the dredging and the cleanup of so
Okay.
So there's a power lines going through the site, or site two, correct?
Yep.
Is this, the spoil site would be under the power lines or close to it, or?
we would meet our setback of the power lines, which actually I just found out today. A maximum of 25 feet on each side, so 50-foot easement that they have for maintenance. So that is built into our spec. I believe our spec right now we're at 35 feet setback on each side.
So on the spoil site, do we have to have a permanent silt fence then, or what's the long range plan of that spoils pile? That's what I'm asking, I guess.
So the long range plan, of course, so I can get into that when we look at the next motion, but so during the construction phase, they'll stockpile it. They'll be like any of the other berms out there. Once they're done with that, to meet their MVDS permit, it all has to be seeded. There will be silt fences on the property that will have to be maintained throughout the construction of the site. But then that stockpile is there, again, for either the district to sell as topsoil. And then, I mean, that's a totally different aspect of this. But also in the bid specs that you'll see in the next item, we actually have a deduction price for a contractor who wants to be allowed to sell that dirt on his own. Okay.
I'll wait for the next motion.
All right, Mr. Chair, that's all I have unless there's any other questions on item C, which is the memorandum of update on the CDF cells 1, 2, and 3. All right, item D is a motion to bid CDF cell 1 material removal. If you see the large pack in front of you. They get an actual pack, don't they? Again, if you look in this pack on page 3, or actually page 2, has a lot of the documentation and notes for the bid pack. There's quite a bit of those. If you look at the 3rd page, it shows you both cell 1, which we're looking at cleaning out, and then it also shows you the stockpile, again, just to the south of cell 1, and then also cell 3. There's also the other stockpile area. If you look at the next page where we have C1B, C1D, C1E, and C1C, that's more of a sequencing for the contractors who will be bidding this. sort of what geo syntax sort of is thinking as far as sequencing for the removal of material. And then the last few pages is just grid and elevations. So on page 8, Al, you can see sort of the stockpile area that is just south of cell 1. Of course, where the line there, the dashed line, that's about the power pole center line. And you can see the setbacks from that. Again, on page 9, it looks a little bit closer. But trust me, we need the 30 feet. It's just tough to show on the map. Again, the height of these stockpiles is going to be dependent on extra available land to move the material to. So again, you'll probably be hearing more from that as we move forward. If we have to, we do have the available land to put the fill material in. One of the other things to note, we also have requirements that we have to meet with the Federal Aviation. As far as our piles can only be so tall. If you remember our clay pile that's out there, that's right at our elevation that we cannot exceed from the FAA. So again, with this, looking for a motion to bid cell 1 material removal, and what questions can I answer for the manager?
We have a motion. Samson, second by Manager Pazuski. Any discussion? I got a question or two.
I forget what month it was. I think it was in September, maybe we were out there when you had the engineering firm here. And I know Mick and I went over the site a little bit. Some of the discussion that day was maintaining the integrity of the cells for the long range benefit of the district and the community.
Mhm.
So I think that if you use cell 3, I guess I don't know if you'd ever clean it out or not, but would that integrity of cell 3 then probably be fixed up or leveled off, or are we always gonna have that that buffer? What do they call that, splash board, or what's the word?
Freeboard?
Freeboard.
So again, once phase 3 is done, you know, if we are going to reuse the cell, we're gonna have to do the same thing we're doing now and clean them out. We will not lose the integrity of cell 3 because we're keeping the control structure, we're just capping it off, we're not removing it. We're just capping it off and basically burying it, so it's still gonna be there to be able to function and be reused if need be. We are also plugging the conveyance pipe that actually flows water from cell 3 to cell 2. So again, that's just a plug we're putting in, so that plug could be removed and create the same function it has previously. Again, the only thing we're doing is piling dirt, which would have to be cleaned out if we ever want to use that cell again. We looked at it as if we're doing maintenance dredging. Let's say it's 30 years, 50 years down the road. We still have cells 2 and 3, which are the biggest cells, and make the most sense as far as dollars spent to clean those cells out and keep using those 2 existing cells as far as cells 1 and 2, rather than cell 3. Again, cell 3 is 15 acres in size, cell 1 is 40 acres in size, and cell 2, I want to believe, is 20 acres in size. So again, keeping the 2 largest cells viable and just using cell 3 at this time to cap it off and just hold the material.
Well, is there any value in the spoils? There's processes to take the sand and gravel, most likely sand, out of those materials, but is there any value in our work here for those spoils?
So the value that I see right now is again, a really good topsoil. We do have 3 samples in the full bid pack that will be sent out to contractors. Soil samples of what the sand material is like, and also what the organic or material that's in there. What I found interesting is actually the phosphorus numbers, once we took the samples, were actually a little bit lower. Than what we've seen with the in-lake soil borings that we took. However, the organic's also a little bit lower. There's only about 14% organic within that material. Otherwise, most of it is silt and then some clays. But it is definitely a very suitable topsoil. But again, it's a lot of topsoil. So there's other dredge projects around the United States where they've packaged it, bagged it, and sold it to like Home Depots. Again, that is something we could potentially look at, but just the upfront cost and putting all that together doesn't make sense to me. To me, it's just cheaper for us to stack it and bulk it and be done with it. If we need to sell it as we go.
There is a value to topsoil, and there will be a value that increases due to scarcity of the resource in the years to come. We're always looking for it. Contractors are always looking for it. So if it's a good source, it's a viable commercial product, albeit you could do it out of a stockpile rather than do it in a bag with them picking it up. There was a large pile of topsoil out by a bag of Severson Ford years ago. Not long, 10 years ago maybe or so. We purchased a lot of that material. We actually came and got it and took it back, and to actually save us money, and even with the trucking, so we could use it on projects. So if there is a potential there, if the district wanted to handle some of that, I think, if it's good stuff, as long as the chemical composition isn't such that it's going to be detrimental to the environment if you spread it on projects and seed it.
Yeah, and we do not have any of that. We've checked that twice now. Once when we did the in-lake samples, and we did that for the permitting for PCA and the Corps of Engineers. And 2, I don't think we actually tested this time for actual chemical inputs, but I believe from the initial sampling we did, we feel comfortable that it's free of all that. Otherwise, we'd have to be sending the spoils to a lined landfill, and it would be really expensive. So one of the other things to note is in the actual bid specs, we have 2 deductions in there. One deduction is if whoever gets the bid and with the deduction that they give us can haul it off-site for resale. Or there's also a deduction in there for if they keep it on-site, material on-site. They have, I believe we wrote in there 10 years to sell or use that black dirt as they see fit. So, and that can be considered with the deduction within the bid spec that we have.
The manager Bakken and I visited that site before they cut it all down. It looks like the vegetation liked the soil. There was a lot of it.
One other thing to note,
Fertilizer in the soil.
one other thing to note is if you remember, we did have a large pile, I believe it was 22,000 cubic yards of black dirt, where this material will also be going. Now we actually sold that material as excess material for the district. So there, we do have a contract out there with a contractor for that material. Now they've used pretty much almost the entire amount, but they do still have some there. However, if we go ahead with this bid, we will basically take a elevation or a survey of what material he still has left there and allow him to take it from our other pile, so we can go forward with burying that. Or he will remove it, because like he said, it's not much. He said it's possible I could remove that from the site before he started. So we will be working with that contractor to figure that out, so we don't interrupt his material that he purchased from us.
One more question. Is there any discussion about actually just grading it or screening it or whatever you want to wash it as we take it out of the cell instead of just stockpiling it?
So there has been some discussion on that with the sand, because the sand is probably, one of the larger potential value pieces out there. However, our estimates is there's only about 50,000 cubic yards of that material out there. And part of that material we actually need to bridge cell 3, create a better, what's the term I'm looking for? A better platform for them to work on to put the material on. So again, I think just, going through the cost benefit phase, pulling out a screener, all of that stuff. I just don't think it makes sense for that little bit of material that we might have. There was also the thought of going into cell 2 to remove some of the sand that's in that sand to use for capping cell 3. However, because of the issues we had with the berm failures on cell 2, I do not want heavy equipment on those berms whatsoever. So we've actually asked them to stay out of both cell 2 and the north end of cell 1. They can't transport material out of cell 1 from the extended berm heights in the north and northeast. So I don't know if that totally answers your question, Al.
Well, what I'm getting at, I guess, is if the sand material is 10 to 15% of the spoil site, as an ag person, I would like, the topsoil or the phosphorus or whatever we buy. As a farmer, we buy phosphorus. But what I'm getting at is if you could take that sand out of there, you got a better product for the community. It's the way I see it, but maybe it wouldn't affect the land you put it on if you spread it out.
Yeah, I mean, once you mix it and spread it, I don't think you'll even know the sand's there. So.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Leah, please call roll.
Manager Bakken?
Aye.
Manager Pastuski?
Aye.
Manager DeBoer?
Aye.
Manager Lee?
Aye.
Manager Hanson? Manager Belcher?
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The last item I have, item E, is just a quick update on the Association of Minnesota Counties Drainage Conference. I attended this conference last Wednesday and Thursday, along with both Manager Bakken and Manager Kramer. I believe it was quite insightful, quite informative. I think they sometimes danced around some of the key subjects that are going up at the state legislature, as far as some drainage issues, and that would be adequate outlets and the registry that some of the environmental groups want to put in place for our ag community. And so I think there's going to be continued discussions going forward. There was a drainage work group that the governor put together to try to solve some of these issues. A lot of those issues were talked through quite extensively. However, one party did not get what they wanted and sort of just backed out of the basically the paper that the drainage work group put together for the governor, and basically no consensus. What it said was no consensus was come to on the issues that they were supposed to resolve, and that be an adequate outlet and the drainage registry. So with that, Al, I don't know if you have any other things. I know Al wanted to potentially put the drainage committee or have a meeting with the drainage committee. Mick and Al are on that drainage committee. So Al, if that's something you want to look at, you just need to let me know. So.
Well, I think we need to maybe become a little more educated as a watershed district on what's happening statewide. I think there was maybe like 50 county commissioners there or whatever, or more at that meeting, Andy. And then the balance was county employees, watershed people. I know our county had 6 people there from county or watershed, but so there's a lot of redetermination was a big topic for a couple of the seminars, and some of the ditches in the state haven't been done for 70, 80 years. So the process of doing that, is it all by the landowners that start that process, or is the process triggered when one parcel or a certain percentage of the acres is taken out for public entities? Does that trigger a redetermination? Because there was a sample redetermination in the packet there. So every parcel has a percentage that they pay for that ditch system. See, well, if you take 500 acres out of that ditch system now, is there a redetermination? Maybe Mike knows. Automatically, or you know what's happening.
I guess they would go to the county board and they would decide if they want to do determination of benefits or not, which usually they do, I guess.
So I
remember from when I was on the board.
So I'd like to kind of know what's happening in our watershed district compared to maybe the county, if we're, you know, I think you and I talked about there was like 4 improvements in county ditches that we've done in the last 20 years. But in an improvement, there's a redetermination, right? The way I understand it. So I'd like to kind of put a committee together, maybe a couple lay people too, or whatever, just to talk about it here, and maybe have a report back to the you know, to the watershed district in a few months or whatever, and see what's happening and kind of stay on top of the issue is what I'm saying. So.
Yep, and I think it'd be a good process too, just to go through, you know, kind of how it works with when there's a watershed district in place. Usually, for most systems, like let's take Turtle Creek Watershed District, for example. Turtle Creek actually basically runs their ditch system. And so anything that they do, or anything that's new and improved, goes in front of the Turtle Creek Watershed Board. They get the contracts, they fix it, they do all this stuff. They then send all the information to the county, and the county does all the assessment and all that stuff. For us, it works a little bit different because we said when the district was established that the county already has the ditch viewers. The county already has all the infrastructure in place. We don't need to basically copy what they're already doing. So how it works within the Shell Rock Watershed District is if there is an improvement, then the petition needs to come to us as the watershed district. We then sign off or approve the motion for the improvement of the district, and then we send that to the county, and the county does it. Other watersheds don't work that way. They actually take over the ditch system once the improvement comes, and then they have to work on redeterminations and all that stuff. So we run it a little bit different here. It works for us. But again, some of the main questions or big questions come up are, is it a repair or an improvement? And a lot of times before in the past, everything was just a repair. Repair, because then it didn't have to go through this process. So just to get the board a little bit caught up on how things work, one within watershed districts and how we work it here within Freeborn County. We're not the only watershed district in the state that does it this way, but we're one of the only a few or a handful that do it this way.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that is all I have.
Okay. Go on to item number 7, Project and Program Manager Courtney Phillips.
Thank you. The first item I have is resolution 2024-04, Bancroft Wetland Restoration Plan Approval. If there's a first and a second, I will do some discussing on it.
Second.
Hanson and Lee.
Sounds good. So in your packet, you can see there's a Bancroft Creek Wetland Restoration Plan. This was completed by ISG. This project is going to be funded by Lessard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council. This is on a property that we purchased using Lessard Sands funding. It is north of Bancroft on County Ditch 65. We own approximately, I wanna say it's an 80 and almost like a 40, so I wanna say it's roughly 120 acres. Right now, our restoration efforts of this wetland restoration are focused on the east side of CD 65. Unfortunately, because of the contours, we can't capture water from CD 65 on this side. And we're kind of limited by the wetland restoration boundary because of the sandy soils that are on the site. Not saying in the future, we could potentially look at restoration on the west side, but right now we're just mostly focused on the east side. So it's a relatively simple wetland restoration with just a swale to the water to be able to get more water to the site, and then a simple outlet structure from the proposed wetland back into CD 65. So it will be holding water up on stream on the landscape before it does make its way into the ditch for some type of for treatment and wetland restoration potential. The rest of the site will then be seeded into natives at this time. I will also read the resolution and then answer any questions that there is. Resolution 2024-04, Bancroft Wetland Restoration Approved Project Plan, project number 2020-03. Whereas the Shell Rock River Watershed District Board of Managers pursues the mission of implementing reasonable and necessary improvements to the water-related and other natural resources within its boundaries. Whereas the Shell Rock River Watershed District is charged with implementing the Shell Rock River Watershed District Watershed Management Plan. Whereas project goals and objectives set forth in the plan include improve water quality and clarity to Bancroft Creek CD 65, and improve and enhance waterfowl habitat, increase fisheries habitat, conserve the topsoil and hold the soil on the land, reduce soil loss due to concentrated flow during storm events, reduce sediment delivery to surface waters, minimize flood damage to property, and restore the function of the floodplain. Whereas the Bancroft Restoration Project 2020-03 was initiated on August 11th, 2020 by Resolution 2020-12. Whereas the Board of Managers, having reviewed the project plan and has determined that approval of the project plan will further the objectives of the plan. Whereas the district has pursued a comprehensive watershed approach to reduce sedimentation and improve water quality, including filter strips, rock inlets, nutrient management systems, water and sediment basin installations, rough fish management practices, installation of fish barriers, septic system inspection, stream bank and ditch restoration projects, and the installation of rain gardens. Therefore, the Board of Managers hereby finds that the project has the potential to promote the public interest and welfare, is practical, and conforms to the watershed management plan as set forth above. Now therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Shell Rock River Watershed District, Section 1 approves the Bancroft Restoration Project Plan as presented by ISG, and Section 2 authorizes district staff to conduct work as needed to present this project to the board for final review and public hearing as required by law, dated February 13th, 2024. I do want to point out that we have reached out to the Drainage Authority and they are aware of the project as well.
Which authority is that?
Send it to Cody Fox, just one of the ditch inspectors, so that he's aware of it.
So that would.
You are.
Yeah, we're open to discussion.
So that would be the issue that I'd like defined, and we talked about this committee a little bit here, but so do the other landowners on CG 65 get a notice that there's gonna be some work? The way it looks here, you're not gonna affect the integrity of the ditch.
We're not, so we're gonna actually be reducing the amount of water that goes to the site directly, because there is a couple of tile blocks. There is one that we have to maintain on the south side. It's a 24-inch tile that you can barely, at the very bottom on page 5, you can just see the text that says 24-inch existing culvert. We don't know if that's draining all of ours or up here, so we're keeping that one in place, but there are a couple of tile blocks that we're disconnecting tile from draining into CD 65 from the property that we own. So we're removing water that goes into the ditch system, but as of right now, no landowners aren't notified of this project that's taking place. Other than the public hearing notices that we put out.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Please call roll.
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Bestuski,
Aye.
Manager DeBoer,
Aye.
Manager Lee,
Aye.
Manager Hanson,
Aye.
Manager Delter.
Aye, motion passes.
Thank you. I will kind of do item B and C together as they're hand in hand. B is a motion to approve ISG Fountain Inlake Habitat Restoration Change Order, and C is Fountain Lake Inlake Habitat Restoration Update. If you remember at our, I think it was our last board meeting, we ended up having to reject all bids for bid packages 1, 2, and 3 in the Fountain Lake Inlake Habitat project because they came in substantially over engineers' estimates. And we only received 1 bid for bid pack 2 and 3. So we went back to the drawing board and we ended up going to the Losard Sands Council and we received a 1-year extension for the timeline of the expending the funds. So now our timeline is June 30th of 2025 instead of 2024. We felt that contractors put in a higher amount because of the rush timeline and the uncertainties of getting such a large scope of project done within a short amount of time. So we were able to expand that. We also did do some changes to the bid packages themselves. We completely removed bid package 1, which was the native plantings. We feel that we can come back and do that at a later time, use maybe different grant funding or phase of funding to be able to complete that. So right now we removed that. We also removed a lot of the sunken trees because it was just, we did have it as fish habitat, but at this time, it was just kind of a potential liability for the district of how we were gonna keep those secured. And just looking at trying to expend funds that we have available now, we're mostly focusing on the rock portion of it now. And as a result of that, we ended up removing a large amount of work from the Edgewater Bay area. So now a lot of our focus is on the actual main bay rock placement for habitat. We also separated bid packages into 2 different categories. So we had the Tollwood shoreline restoration along with the access piece in together. They're kind of specialized work, so we separated them out. So Tollwood is now on its own and the access piece is on its own bid as well. So we still have 3 bid packages, but they're slightly changed. We do feel like the district will be able to fully expend all funds as a result of this based on how bids came in and what we kind of broke the work out into. But as a result of that, because we had quite a few changes, ISG is looking to do a change order for their engineering services as well as construction oversight when we get to the bidding project. And that amount is up to $37,200. So looking for a motion to approve a change order as a result of all these changes. That required engineers to redo bid packs, put everything out on Quest, attend hearings, and then again to do the construction oversight, so.
Any discussion?
So do we have to move to discuss? No. Okay, the original. Was there construction observation in that?
Some,
So,
So in the original packet, there was 7,000 for construction oversight. I went to them and said, do you believe that's enough? With some of the different work we're doing. And so what I asked them is I don't wanna go back again and do another change order down the road. So let's put a change order in for the increased observation along with the increase in rebidding the project and going through all this stuff. Now, when Courtney says up to the 35, there's probably some potential stuff within their itemized list that we won't have them do. For instance, just to give you an example of one of them, they have a drone flyover for before and after. I don't believe we need that. I got $1,600. I actually talked with Julie yesterday, so we'll probably be taking that out of it. But again, didn't have time to redo all this. So when Courtney says up to the
37,000.
37,200, we will actually be whittling that down. But I didn't want 2 different change orders coming for the same project, one for the increase in the new bidding stuff.
so they have to redraw the plans, et
Yes.
cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
New project manual, I get that.
Yep. And they were just underestimated on their construction oversight at 7,000. So we actually still have that 7,000 credit already built into the existing contract. We just have it itemized for the for what they were under with.
So is there gonna be another change order later?
No, that's the whole
This is
point
not
of
to
it.
exceed figure?
Correct.
Okay,
So we're trying to do it all up front. So it's not,
so
like
it's
Andy
not to
said,
exceed.
correct, so we probably
Yes.
will not spend the 37,200, it's just we have it available.
Okay. Thank you.
Just another note on that, you know, Courtney said we did pull out a lot of stuff out of the Edgewater Bay. The reason for that is one of the biggest line items, for that placement of rock and other material. The woody habitat being one, was just mobilization for mobilizing the barge, crane and stuff from Edgewater to the main part, was 400,000.
That was the whole.
Whole demo, but I mean, a big portion of that was remolding it from Edgewater. So we felt one of the biggest things we can do is let's focus on one of the bays, and we picked the main lake because that's where a majority of it was. And then at a future date, if we want to go after some more in-lake habitat, then we can focus on that. So
And potentially we would have the dredging done, so we would be able to do the remainder of the main bay at that time as well.
You're dredging it out and then you're filling it back in.
For a good reason.
Yeah, so we're just trying to, based on the bids that we received, it was kind of a cost benefit analysis. Was it really worth the cost to mow back into Edgewater Bay for the $100,000 of work that's gonna be in that bay? And the answer was no. It wasn't looking at the public dollars of interest there.
Question, so have we coordinated with the DNR and the city of Beverly on this then?
Correct, yep, so we have all permits in place from the DNR and we've been working with the city on this. They gave us the plans for the access piece, and then we've also been working with them on locations for staging areas for the barge to be able to complete the rock portion. So yes, we've been in contact with them.
Thank you.
and yes, we do have a joint powers agreement with the city, already signed. I believe the board signed off on that at the last meeting, so that's all in place.
I'll get a motion. That's what I said. I got kind of lost. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Manager Pursuski, do I have a second? By Manager DeBoer. Any more discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Pursuski,
Aye.
Manager DeBoer,
Aye.
Manager Lee,
Aye.
Manager Hanson,
Aye.
Manager Delcher.
Aye, motion carried.
The only other little update that I have for the in-lake habitat is it is currently out for bid on Quest, and the bid opening, or bids are due March 1st at 2, and we are looking to award contractors at our March board meeting. So, item D is a DNR donation update. We have been working with the DNR and US Fish and Wildlife on some restoration properties being transferred over to them. I'm happy to announce that our Mud Lake property is now in DNR ownership. We signed the deed over to them before the end of the year, so that is the property that is just north of Mud Lake, and it adds to the current DNR Magaskaka tract, so that is in DNR ownership. We are also working on the Church Lake property is being donated. We pretty much have everything all completed. They're just finalizing their IDB plans, but we're getting all the surveys and appraisals and everything sent off to them, so that one looks like it will be in DNR ownership relatively soon. And then same with the Orr property, we pretty much have almost all the paperwork finalized. We just gotta get them a few last things, and then the US Fish and Wildlife Service will take over ownership of the Orr property as well. So there's an update there, if there's any questions. Hearing none. Next is the Watershed Restoration and Protection Strategy RAPS update. We did receive $42,000 from the MPCA as part of their RAPS funding, which is Watershed Restoration and Protection Strategy funding. This is a kind of a joint effort between the Shell Rock, the SWCD, the city, and Freeborn County. The $42,000 grant agreement has a funding timeline of December 30th, 2025. And things that we have included for funding would be education and outreach for cover crops, including like potentially direct mailers. We also have, we are wanting to do a street sweeping study to be able to help the city of Albert Lea determine when and where would be the best time or biggest bang for your buck for implementing street sweeping practices, as well as some education and outreach materials such as replacing our EnviroScape model. So we entered into a grant agreement earlier this month, and we are now able to start spending those funds. And if there's no question, the last item I have is a watershed-based implementation funding update. This was regarding the supplemental funds. Watershed districts that were not able to expend all of their funds had to return money back to Bowser. The Board of Water and Soil Resources then took those lump of money and put it back out for application for supplemental funds request. We, as our One Watershed, One Planning entity, requested $925,000. We didn't get quite that much back. We only received $93,885 back. So apparently there was a lot of interest out there of other watersheds that wanted it as well. I believe it was kind of divvied up the same way how our One Watershed, One plans are appropriated. It goes by the size of your watershed, water features, that kind of thing. So I think they tried to make it as fair as possible, and they didn't necessarily look at the projects in there. They just kind of divvied it up equally. So we, as a planning entity, have a meeting at the end of this month to discuss how we are going to spend that $93,000. It sounds like it's going to get added into our current watershed grant, which we have $325,000 from Bowser. So it just sounds like it's going to get added onto that, and we'll have the same timeline, which is December of 2025 for that. So we'll be working together to determine how we're going to spend those funds. That is all that I have.
Perfect. Any more questions, Courtney?
One more, please. Sure. So would you explain the One Watershed, One Plan, how many entities it involves and where our funding is coming from, and a couple things, please?
Yep, so the funding comes from Bowser, and I believe they get their funds from the Clean Water Land and Legacy Trust. But how it's divvied up is it goes by watershed boundaries and not jurisdictional boundaries like counties or cities. So it goes by the watershed boundaries. You get funding to implement a plan, and then once that plan is approved by Bowser and all the entities, then you get funding to implement projects identified in your plan. So for our watershed district, we are relatively small, and we just have one SWCD, one county, our watershed, and then the city of Alberta is technically an elective. Cities don't have to be in it, but the city of Alberta is choosing to be in it. We're small. There's a lot of One Watershed, One planning efforts that have multiple cities, multiple counties, multiple, watershed districts, and they end up having policy committees that have, 20 staff or 20, what's the word I'm looking for? Like county commissioners, supervisors, watershed managers. We're small with only having 4. So we all have to work together to determine how those funds get spent and where. And so we have a really good working relationship. We're really small. I feel like we're kind of a close-knit group, and we're really good at implementing where these funds should be spent. So far, out of our current grant, we spent roughly $100,000 out of our $325,000. The large majority of that so far has been going to street sweeping, helping the city rebuy that equipment, paying them for using it, and also cover cropping. We have more contracted, but because of how the cover crop grants go, we can only report on the funds of the first year spent when it's, they're 2 or 3 year contracts. So we have more contracted down, but actual funds spent was up roughly 1/3 of what we've received. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Anything else? That will go on to item number 8, manager items. Manager items.
I attended the last county commission meeting in January, and I attended the first one in February. We'll talk later about it. I had a discussion with a couple of commissioners after the meeting. We'll get into that.
Item number 9, upcoming meetings. We have our next board meeting March 12th. We have a special board meeting March 19th. Everyone put that in their calendars.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that special board meeting is actually going to hopefully be a meeting to select and award the bid for the clean out of cell 1. I understand it's a week later, but we also need to give time for the contractors to get their bids in. We also potentially will have some items on here on the EAW for the actual dredge project. So those are potentially 2 items we're looking for that special board meeting on March 19th. So yes, please put that on your calendar and please let Leah know if those days work for you. Both those meetings will be held at 8:30. So again, the same as a regular board meeting. The other thing I just want to make mention of is that I would like those that sit on the dredge committee, and that is Al Bakken, Nick Delger, and Brad Kramer, to sort of sit down, work with Leah on some days that work together to meet. We will just start, we're just starting on looking at the design prisms for the actual dredging scope. So I want to get that ran by the dredge committee and then bring that to the full board. So again, those that sit on the dredge committee, if you could just chat with Leah on some times at work for you to meet.
Okay, anything else? Item number 10, we'll now go into closed session. Pursuant to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law, the meeting will now be closed as permitted by Minnesota Statute 13D 05 subdivision 3C to discuss strategy as it relates to the offers from the country club property. So anyone from the public will have to leave the building.